Over the last few years, seeing so many medical headlines with opioid addiction and news articles and that kind of thing, I have not seen one story of anyone coming forth and seeing a real voice for addiction. You don't see it until it's too late and you read about the suicide or you just hear about the facts. And I don't think that that's helping the community that is being affected the most. I am an addict. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. In the front of my mind, it was, I'm in pain, I'm being prescribed these, they know I need them, so I'm not really doing anything I shouldn't be doing, but I really don't want people to know. In my mind, I wasn't stealing them, I wasn't buying them off the street, I wasn't a drug addict.
Living in denial. It's one of the ways we try to combat the shame we feel.
I used pain meds regularly for 4 years, every day. I didn't see it as a problem because every pain med that I ever took was prescribed to me. And that's terrifying.
Sara's story begins at a time when the world was full of potential.
I got my college education in the military while deploying, and I advanced very quickly. Every goal that I set out for, I nailed and was considered more than capable of meeting and exceeding the goals. And especially being a woman in the military, you have a very small window to excel, and I enjoyed being able to do that.
She wanted a family, but being told she had a 0% chance of having children, it was all the more reason to focus on chasing a successful career. That is, until a knee surgery went very wrong.
I was stationed overseas. My knee was starting to feel pretty unstable, and I ended up having to have a total ACL reconstruction and some meniscus work done.
One botched surgery resulted in Sara needing 2 additional corrective procedures. And as she began recovery from that third surgery, it was all the beginning of a downhill spiral that almost cost her her life.
When I got back to my base, I knew pretty instantly that something was pretty drastically wrong. So I ended up going to the emergency room, and they were suspecting that I had a septic joint. I was in a lot of pain. I had a fever. My knee was swollen and very hot. They learned that not only did my joint get septic, but I'm in full sepsis, and I have about a quarter size DVT in my leg.
With a dangerous blood clot and her condition quickly declining, Sara was airlifted to the Wounded Warrior Hospital in Germany.
By the time I'd gotten there, I was within hours from being dead. And because of the level of sepsis, it had been traveling through my brain, through my thyroid, through all of my organs. And they didn't expect me to live. And then when I lived, they didn't expect me to keep my leg. And then I kept my leg, and they said, well, she'll never walk. And well, I walked. And I remember when a new nurse would come on my case, and you could hear them outside being like, are these numbers right? Because it was a lot. It was Dilaudid and morphine and fentanyl patches. They were all maxed out.
3 months and 4 additional surgeries later, Sara was finally discharged, but because of all the pain medication she'd received, doctors decided she needed methadone, the same detox drug used for heroin addicts.
It never crossed my mind that I would be an addict. I'm thinking of, where's my military career going to be? Am I ever going to be able to run? How's my leg going to work? Am I going to not be in pain? You know, I was thinking of those things.
As if the devastation of her new physical limitation wasn't enough, Sara was then told she would be medically retired from the military.
I got out and I moved to Southern California with my husband at the time, who was still in the military, and he deployed a lot. He was gone a lot, and that left me alone a lot. I drank a lot, and I took a lot of pills, and I had a lot of time to think. It was just me and my dogs, and it was not a good time. I felt like I had lost everything. I had lost my quality of life. I had lost my career. I had lost the things that in my mind had made me me. I didn't really know how to continue. I remember at some point taking a handful of pills and putting on fentanyl patches. I guess at some point I talked to a loved one. It definitely was not a cry for help because I really was done. I didn't want to be saved. They contacted my ex-husband, who was in the backyard, and to make sure that I was safe. And he came and made sure I was breathing. And then he went out for drinks with his friend.
Sara woke up the next day in the same place she had passed out in, totally alone, realizing no one had tried to help her.
I realized that my presence just didn't matter. We were divorced pretty quickly. I left California soon after that, but that was not my first or only attempt on my life with pills during that time. Most of those 4 years, every day I thought about suicide because I never thought it was going to stop. I never thought life was going to get better.
It's one of the lies of shame that there is no hope for you, which almost always leads a person to believing they are unlovable.
You can't really accept that you're loved if you feel like you're so unlovable. How does God love me? Not me, everybody else, yeah.
Believing she was unlovable and that there was no way out of her addiction, Sara didn't even think about asking for help or seeking treatment. But a way out did come, and it seems nothing short of a miracle.
Woke up one morning in April of 2013, and I just had this feeling, even though I had 0% chance, I knew in my heart that somehow, some way, I was gonna have a baby. And I went and took a pregnancy test, and sure enough, I was pregnant. I fortunately found out just 3 weeks in, and really hadn't been using as I had met my new husband, and I had kind of been hiding it from him, and I think it was God's way of kind of protecting, what was to come, and I never touched a pill since.
Sara and her husband welcomed a beautiful baby boy, and he gave Sara all the strength she needed to leave her addiction behind.
He is everything and more that made life worth living for. And he was everything that I was told wasn't possible for me. But then my baby got sick, and the guilt in feeling like somehow, some way this was my karma. This was my punishment.
Right before her son's 3rd birthday, he was diagnosed with some serious health issues.
My hardest part about coming out with telling the story and telling why I quit and telling the whole story is the shame or the guilt of people thinking or questioning whether my choices in life somehow caused my son to be sick. I think a part of me will always believe that it was. Despite asking every doctor if I did this to him, if somehow, some way, I did this to him. I don't think that guilt will necessarily ever go away.
It's the hardest part about telling her story, but she's still choosing to share because even though the facts tell her she's not alone, Sara has never met a single person who's been open about an opioid addiction. According to the CDC, on average, 130 Americans die every day from an opioid overdose. With numbers like this, Sara knows someone is listening, feeling just as hopeless as she used to, and she wants you to know.
When you come out of the fog of being suicidal, feeling so unworthy, you can't wait and look for somebody else to save you. People aren't always gonna be who you need them to be, and that has to be okay. You can't crumble anytime that happens. And it's not always the people that you expect that give you the helping hand up. By numbing yourself, you think that there's no escape. You think you are by yourself. And addiction is a liar. You are not alone.
The more we can see ourselves in another, the less we feel the need to hide. And that is life-saving.
I think the first change needs to be who we think an addict is, because it's not always who you think it is. You absolutely cannot tell who is an addict by looking or even talking to one. An addict can hide it very well. I don't know how I survived it. So many of the stories that I've seen of suicide, of homeless vets or homeless people, those are just a couple small decisions away from where I could have or should have been.